Yeah, I got it.
Okay. You got the text up?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now.
Okay. I'm under the weather. Okay. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Well, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد فاتح لما أغلق وخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بحق وهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقدار العظيم. So, welcome back, everyone. I'm feeling a little under the weather today, so just bear with me with my voice and everything. Last week I believe we finished the section on ghusl, and so this week we're going to start with tayammum. So tayammum is basically a dispensation. If one doesn't have water, then one could do it's like a dry ablution. So it basically is wudu without the water. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so basically it's wudu without the water. And this is like a person can make tayammum like if they're traveling and they don't have enough water to do wudu, and or if they're sick and they can't do wudu. And that in either of those situations, then they do what's called tayammum. And so the things which are impermissible, and if a person doesn't have tahara, are going to be impermissible until they do tayammum, as in the case of wudu. All right. So he says, fara'id tayammum al-niyah. So the first obligation of tayammum, just like the wudu, is the intention. So a person makes the intention to do tayammum, to rafa hadatha, or to remove the impurity. Now the thing with the tayammum is that, unlike wudu, the tayammum is only good for one fard aspect. What do I mean by that? Say, for example, it's time for dhuhr prayer, and there's no water, or one is sick. So when they do the tayammum, that's only going to be good for that one prayer. When the asr time comes, then they will have to do tayammum again. But like if they have wudu, if they did wudu with water, of course, then that wudu would be valid until they did one of the things which would invalidate the wudu, like breaking wind, touching the private parts, or falling asleep, any of the things which break the wudu, sexual intercourse or something, right? So that's the difference. So that's one difference, is that the tayammum is only good for one fard aspect, right? Okay. So the first obligatory act of the tayammum is the niyyah. So just like in wudu, you do the niyyah, right? Could you pull it up a little more? And the second one is sa'id al-tahiru. Right. Hold on. And then masah yadayn ila ka'ayn. So, and then one must strike whatever. Let me see here. How can I translate this? So a person must use pure earth, or a person can use a rock, or a person can use a stone, right? But it must be some pure element. So then a person makes the intention, they would strike the rock or the stone or the earth, and then they would wipe the face the same way as they did in wudu. Then he says, وَمَسْحُ يَدَيْنِ إِلَى الْكَوْعَيْنِ. And then, one would rub the hands, up to the elbows. وَضَرَبَ عَرْضَ الْأُولَى. And then return back to the striking of the earth. Yeah, okay, yeah. And then he says, وَفَرْضُ, which is continuity. Right, meaning there must not be a break in between, like wiping the face or wiping the limbs. He says one of the other obligations, he says, دخول الوقت اتصاله بالصلاة. So he says that the tayammum is connected to the prayer without interruption. What he means by this is that you must do the tayammum, like for example, when Dhuhr comes in, that's when you make the tayammum for the Dhuhr prayer. And then you would pray the prayer immediately afterwards. Now, he said, and what's meant by pure earth is, he said, dirt, adobe brick, which is unbaked, a rock, or snow, or mud, and the like. So any of these, dirt, of course, one doesn't want to be dirty, but dirt in itself is a pure substance, is a pure element. So we can use dirt to do tayammum. Now, so keep going up, Brother Ali. He also says, okay, stop right there. He says it is not permissible to perform tayammum on cooked plaster. So basically like drywall or something like that. Straw mats, wood, grass, and the like. There's a dispensation for the sick person to use a stone or adobe wall if he cannot find someone to get him something else. Now, so if a person is sick and he can't get those things, he can use a stone or an adobe wall. Again, like baked plaster and things like drywall, which is found in most houses. This isn't acceptable to use to do tayammum with. So again, a person is just striking the substance. Like I said, if it's the ground, the person basically just strikes the ground and rub the hands over the face, and then the arms up to the elbows. That's all it is. So then he says, well, what's the He says, so the sunnah of tayammum is that you so those are the obligatory aspects. So the sunnah aspects is that you contacting the earth a second time for wiping the hands. So just like in the wudu, we all remember we said that the first time is always what's obligatory. The second and third time is highly recommended or sunnah. So the same thing is going to apply here in the tayammum. And so another sunnah aspect is wiping between the wrist and the elbows and maintaining the order. So just like how we wipe the hands and then the hands, up to the elbows and everything, getting in between the fingers, we're going to do the same thing here. Other recommended acts of tayammum is saying the basmala or the bismillah, wiping the right hand before the left, wiping the outer portion of the arms before the inner portion, and wiping the front part before the end part. So basically it's the same as how you would wash the hands, how I showed you on the video, washing the hands up to the elbows and everything. And you're gonna do the same thing after striking the dirt or the rock or the stone. And so then he says the things that invalidate the tayammum are just like wudu. And so then he said, so I got ahead of here of myself in the text. It says the 2 fard prayers cannot be prayed with 1 tayammum. The one who performs tayammum for a fard prayer may pray nafila prayer. After it, touch the Quran, make tawaf, and recite the Quran. This is done immediately after the prayer, and the time of prayer is not exit. Right? So it says tayammum for a nafila makes all the aforementioned permissible except the fard prayer. Whoever prays Ishraq with tayammum is allowed to pray the shafa and the witr, because the shafa and the witr are nafila, are supererogatory prayers. Now, could you go up in the text, Ali? And afterwards, if there is no delay, if one is making a tayammum while in a state of janaba, there must be that specific intention. So if a person is in a state of janaba, meaning a person has had sexual intercourse, then they must just be specific when they make the intention that it's for janaba or to remove the janaba. Now, so now we're going to go to the section on menstruation. And this is for the sisters. Men, it's also good that you know this, because I don't know, you may have to teach it to your daughter if your wife is not around or something like that. And so some preliminary things we want to get out of the way. When a woman is on her menses, when she's on her menstrual cycle, there are certain things which are dispensations, but at the same time, she can't do. Meaning, if she did it, there would be like no ajr in doing it anyway. And those things are making the obligatory salat, so praying. So when we say praying here, we don't mean like making dua. We don't mean like a personal supplication. A person can make a personal supplication, a personal prayer anytime they want. We're talking about the 5 obligatory prayers. So if a woman is having her menstrual cycle, she cannot pray the 5 prayers, nor can she fast, nor can she make tawaf around the Kaaba, nor can she, according to the school which we follow, the Maliki school, nor can she enter into the masjid, meaning the prayer area. And nor can she touch the actual pages of the Arabic Mus'haf. Right? And so there are 3 categories for determining when the menstruation cycle begins and when it ends. There are 3 categories. The first category is the woman called the mubtada. And this is a female who has not had her period before. So in this case, the maximum time which will be considered her period is going to be 15 days. Right? And so he says here, the longest a woman's first menstrual cycle could be is 15 days. The most for a woman with a regular cycle is whatever her normal period is. So a woman who has a cycle, her period is going to be whatever her maximum period day is, but it can't exceed 15 days. And then I'll explain in detail more. And then the third category is a woman who's pregnant, because we know sometimes, in very rare instances, a woman can even have a period during her pregnancy. So going back to the the first category. So if a young girl who, say for example, she's 10 years old, most on them must say the youngest that a girl can have her period is 9 years old. Say for example, she's 10 or 11, and she starts her first period. From the time that the blood starts to flow until it ends, when it ends, that's her normal time of her period. So say for example, the blood flows for a period of 3 days. I'm just doing, I don't know if that's the case, but I'm just saying, say for example, it happens, she bleeds for 3 days. At the end of the 3 days, she's to make a ghusl, and then she used to start back praying her 5 prayers. And she could do all of the things, and all of the things which she was not able to do previously. Also a woman, of course, a married woman, she cannot have sexual relationships with her husband while she's on her period. Okay, so going back to the girl who first had her period. So her first period, we said it lasted 3 days. At the end of the 3 days, she performs ghusl, and now she's praying. So that's her normal period. Now, when a woman has a cycle normally, say for example, her menstruation cycle is 7 days, right? Whatever it was for that month, then that specific number of days is going to be what's called mu'tad, her normal period cycle. It's going to change from month to month. Say for example, it's January, and for the month of January, she had a menstruation for 6 days. We're going to say in the month of February, she bled an extra day. So now it's 7 days. So 7 days for the month of March is her new normal. So if she bleeds anything over and it keeps going like that up until 15 days. But there's a 3-day window period like in between, because sometimes women spot. So she's given a 3-day window period added on to whatever the maximum number of days was in her previous period. So say for example, we said February she bled 7 days, but then in March, like, she spotted after the 7th day. So we're going to add 3 days to that. So now for the March is going to her new her new period days is going to be 10 days, and that's fine. We can do that all the way up until 15 days. 15 days is going to be the max. If she's still spotting or she's still bleeding after 15 days, then this is considered istihada, or this is a medical issue, and then she should, after that 15 days, she should make ghusl, and then she should pray and do all of the things which she was not able to do. In the case of a woman who's pregnant, it's going to be, if she's 2 months in her pregnancy or more, the maximum is 20 days. So it's going to be the same thing, adding the 3 days until we reach the 20 days. If she's 6 months or more into her pregnancy, the max is going to be 30 days. Anything after that will be considered istihada, and then she has to make ghusl, and then she has to start praying. At this point, is everything clear? Okay, mashallah, good.
Okay, if a person was to have a period, or really it would be like istihada, that lasted for 5 months straight, would they just alternate every 15 days, like count 15 days, make a ghusl, do everything, and then after 15 days again, they assume that it's menstruation again.
Yeah, so in a case like that, if it was like sporadic like that, then the only days which would count as days towards the her period will be the days that she's actually bleeding. If there's any break in between, then that day is not counted towards the 15 days, and she used to pray or do, resume the normal activities.
Okay, but if they're bleeding, if there's blood every day for the entirety of that 5-month period, then you would just alternate 15 days off, 15 days off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the maximum and the minimum is both 15 days.
Okay. Max days for the period plus. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So muhim, remember those three categories. The mubtada, which is the girl who has her period for the first time. We said that her period is however many days that the blood was flowing. Whenever she has her period that particular month, that becomes her normal. For the woman in the second category, it's the number, whatever her normal is, that's what it is. We said that we could add 3 days though until it gets to 15 days. That's if she has some spotting or something in between. And then we said in the case of the pregnant woman, it's going to be 20 days if she's 2 months or less pregnant. If she's six months or more than 6 months pregnant, it's going to be 30 days. That's going to be our max. Adding with a 3-day window period in between, just like in the case of the regular menstruation cycle. Now, okay. So with that, and the way to check to see if a woman is menstruating, or let me say that she could use cotton, or nowadays that the women have tampons and things like this to see if she's bleeding as far as menstruation blood, or let me say that the signs that she came off her period is that there's going to be dryness, or there is a liquid. It's like a white, murky liquid, which is not blood, and women know what this is. Obviously, those are signs that she has came off her period, and also off one, and the yellow discharge that follows the blood. This is considered menstruation also. So once she's came off her period due to either dryness or the white murky discharge, then she is to perform the ghusl and all of the things which she was prohibited from doing. She can now do. In the Maliki school, the menstruating woman can recite the Quran. The other schools don't allow it. Imam Malik had a particular, a good reason and why he allowed the menstruating woman to recite the Quran. He said because potentially half her life is going to be on her menses, right? And so again, it's not a punishment. So she's not punished half her life by not being able to recite the Quran. Now there are some the ulama say that like she can recite it from memory, but she just can't like touch the actual Arabic pages of the Mus'haf. But like she can still, and even she can teach the Quran and everything. And like if she's teaching from Allah or something like this, then she can still do that while she is menstruating. And this is particular to the Maliki school, I believe. No. So go up to, he says, with the chapter dealing with the times. Nah. So he says, Fasl fi awqat. He said, al-waqtu. So every prayer time, we have two different categories. We have what's called the ikhtiyari time and the dururi time. So we're gonna go over how to determine the times of prayer without, like, modern cell phone technology, which a lot of times is wrong. And so if you're ever out and you don't got your cell phone, you can still know when it's time to pray. So he says, "Al-fasl fi awqat al-waqtu mukhtar li-dhuhri." So the first prayer time we're going to talk about is the ikhtiyari time. The ikhtiyari time is the preferred time. Right? The ikhtiyari time is when the salat first comes in, and that's the preferred time. The dururi time is the time in which the prayer can be prayed and it not be considered qada. Qada is like a prayer which you missed, and it's a makeup prayer. So he says here, the preferred time, the mukhtar or ikhtiyari, والوقت مختار ظهري من زوال شمسي إلى آخر أقامه. Right? ومختار للعصر من قامة إلى إسفرار ودرورها إلى الغروب. والمختار للمغرب قدر ما تصلي فيه بعد شروطها. ومختار للعشاء من مغيب الشفق إلى الثلث الليل الأولى. ودرورها إلى طلوع الفجر. So he says the preferred time for Dhuhr begins from the zenith of the sun, and it continues until the length of the shadow equals the post-zenith shadow plus the length of the object. So what does he mean here? So if you look at, Dhuhr comes in like, so if you look at the sky and the sun is at its zenith, is at its highest point in the sky, and you look at the shadow, and if the shadow is at its equal length, this is the time of Dhuhr. And this is easy to determine, like we know that the sun, for example, rises in the east. So the sun is not going to be in that extreme part of the sky. It's going to be in the middle of the sky or at its highest point. And so then another indication is that like whatever, like you could take your own shadow. Your own shadow is it's its natural length. It's not an elongated shadow. This is Dhuhr. Now the time so that's the ikhtiyari time. So then he says the mukhtar for Asr is from the end of Dhuhr until the yellowing period. Right? So Dhuhr and Asr now, they overlap. What do I mean by this? The dururi of Dhuhr is going to extend all the way into the dururi of Asr. I'm going to say that again. The dururi, meaning the time in which you have to pray Dhuhr to where it's not considered qada, extends from the beginning of Dhuhr all the way to the time of Asr. The ikhtiyari, the mukhtar time for Asr begins when the dururi time for Dhuhr starts. Right? So this is why he says the mukhtar for Asr is from the end of Dhuhr into the yellowing period. Right? And also at this point in time, the shadow now is going to be twice this length. So like if you look at your shadow, it's gonna be an elongated shadow. It's gonna be twice as length. He says the more so and also yeah, the necessary for the duty prayer. He's of mug continues from the time filling its conditions. So the mukhtar or the preferred time now is from sunset. The sunset is when the disk of the sun is gone and there's redness in the sky. That's Maghrib. And the time to perform wudu and perform that prayer. It's a very short period, the ikhtiyari time for Maghrib. Isha is from the setting of the redness in the sky until the third. So so Isha begins when the redness is dissipated. That's the mukhtar for Isha. The night of the first night of dawn, right? So for Dhuhr and Asr, Maghrib and Isha, the Dururi times for both of those, or for all of those prayers, is gonna be the same. Does that okay? He says, the Mukhtar, the morning prayer of Subh from the first light of dawn, the Duri until the rising of the sun. Prayers considered makeup, qada, after all of these aforementioned times. So, a scenario here. Say, for example, a person was not able to pray Salat al-Dhuhr in this ikhtiyari time, at the preferred time when it first came in. They have all the way until the end of Asr to pray it to where it would not be considered a makeup prayer. But it is extremely dislike for one to do so, without a reason, right? So the same thing with Maghrib and Isha. He said if one delays prayer until his time is exited, then he has upon him a grand sin, unless he forgot or asleep. So what's meant by prayer exited is that, say for example, a person didn't pray Dhuhr in either time, in this ikhtiyari time, nor did they pray it in the dururi time. And there's no good reason why they didn't. They were just lazy. But then Maghrib comes around and, now suddenly they want to pray. Okay, now you pray the Dhuhr, then you pray the Asr, then you pray the Maghrib. But this is a great sin. This is a great sin. A person, Allah said in the Quran, "Inna salata kana ala mu'minina kitaba mawquta." That Allah has made, He has prescribed the prayer at certain times. To be prayed in these certain times. So He's given people, like a pretty long leeway, a good leeway, make their prayers to where they're not considered missed prayers. So if a person is, not praying a prayer on time and delaying for no reason, this isn't good. No. What's that? So No. So go up on the text, Brother Ali. Okay. 1 second. And so what's meant by that? He says after the first so after Asr prayer to the Maghrib, after the first light of dawn, except for regular routine prayers, one overslept, was not able to perform. Oh yeah. So the times in which a person should not pray, or meaning here, not initiate a prayer, is after the Asr, is the time after the Fajr has been prayed, or after the Subh has been prayed until the rising of the sun, after the Asr prayer until Maghrib, after the first light of dawn, except for a regular routine of prayers, and one overslept was not able to perform, when the Imam of the Friday prayer sits on the minbar, or after the Jummah prayer until he leaves the masjid. So what does this mean? So for example, after a person has prayed the morning prayer, Salatul Subh, there's no nafila prayer until the rising of the sun. After the sun rises, there's a nafila prayer, Salatul Doha, which one could do, but there's no sunnah prayers or anything after Salatul Subh. Likewise, after Asr prayer, after one is prayed Asr, then there's no sunnah prayers after Asr. For example, before Dhuhr and after Dhuhr, there's sunnah prayers. There's four rakats which one can pray before Dhuhr, and then there's four one should pray after Dhuhr. One could pray 2 rakats before Asr. But after one is prayed the Asr, there's no more nafila prayer until Maghrib comes. Another exception he said here is when the Imam on the Friday prayer sits on the minbar, and this is in the Maliki school. You'll see people doing different things, but in our school, according to the way of Medina, when the Imam gets on the minbar for the Friday khutbah, a person cannot initiate a new prayer. Why? Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the Friday prayer, that the khutbah is part of the prayer. Right? The khutbah or the sermon is part of it. So when the Imam this is why the Friday prayer is only 2 rakats and not 4. It takes the place of Dhuhr, right? Dhuhr is usually 4 rakats, but why not on Friday? Because the first 2 rakats have been replaced by the Friday sermon. So when the Imam gets on the minbar, a person is actually in prayer. So this is why also that a person can't even return salams to someone if they're in the masjid during the Friday khutbah. So if someone, if you're in the masjid and someone comes into the masjid and they say salam alaikum, you can't even return the salam to them because you're actually in prayer. So in ours, and you'll see people, they come in while the Imam is talking and they do 2 rakats. Okay, fine, no problem. That's that's their way. Our way is that no. If the Imam is on the minbar, we listen. We listen to the khutbah. Now, he says also that there's no prayer after. He said after the Jummah prayer until he leaves the masjid. So usually we even withhold. We wait to pray nafila or sunnah prayers to after the Imam has left the masjid. The only exception to these rules would be if a person was asleep. If a person overslept, as soon as they wake up, then they are to pray whatever prayer they missed during the time they were asleep. No, that situation will supersede all of these exceptions. Now, so he says, a faslu fi shuruti salat. So this is the section on the conditions of prayer. So these are the things which, if these conditions are met, then the salat is not acceptable. And so, وشروط الصلاة الطهار حدث والطهار خبث. So one must be pure, ritually clean from hadith and khabith. And so we previously discussed what was hadith and what was khabith. They must be free of any direct nullifiers and also clean of any causes. Now, and then he said, وَمِن بَدْنِ الثَّوْبِ وَمَكَانِ سِتْرَةُ عَوْرَةٍ. A person's nakedness or odor must be covered. Nakedness was considered odor for the men and women. Of course, it's different. In the Maliki school, minimum which must be covered in order for a person to make the prayer is ma bayna sir wa rukbatayn. So between the belly button for the man and between the knees. So he must have something covering up his belly button all the way to the knees. And what's meant by to the knees is that if the man is sitting in jalsa, if he's sitting in prayer, that the garment must cover the knees. That's the minimum in which he could wear and pray. Now there are some exceptions, like the Maliki school is very, very particular about prayer on time. So you do have some mas'alas where you have some instances where in some of the higher books of fiqh where people would ask questions like, well, what do you do? Well, what would a person do if they didn't have any clothes and the time for prayers come? And Imam Malik will say, well, they should pray naked. The time, the prayer has precedence over everything. But in a normal situation, the odor of the man is the belly was between the belly button and the knees. For the woman, all of her body is considered odor except for her hands and her face. All of the odor or all of the body of the woman is considered odor except for her hands and her face. Now, he says, well, istiqbal al-Qibla. And then one must face the Qibla, which in America is going to be according to the majority of opinion it's going to be northeast. وترك الكلام, and leaving speech, and he says وترك أفعال كثيرة, and to abandonment of leading like a lot of actions. What's considered like a lot of actions is according to some ulama, they say 3 consecutive actions. So basically a person shouldn't be fidgeting while they're in prayer. But a person should be calm. They should be still, and they should be focusing on the prayer. They shouldn't be, fidgeting and playing with their clothes. And subhanAllah, I mean, sometimes stuff like you see people in the masjid doing just strange things in prayer, messing with the clothes, and this is distraction from the prayer. And some ulama said that too much af'al, too many actions, it actually breaks the khushu', it actually breaks the salat. And so he says, well, like I said, and so the aura for the man is between the belly button and the knees. In regards to the woman, it is everything except for the face and the hands. Now, he said a prayer is just like for a man if he performed it while wearing only pants, meaning bare chested. It's disliked. I mean, if he doesn't have the clothes, okay, that's that's the issue. But he should but he should at least cover the shoulders too, though. He doesn't have to, meaning the prayer is still valid, but he should cover the shoulders. So that's what's meant here. But it is disliked to pray wearing only pants. Now, he says unless there's something over the shirt or shawl. If one gets impurities on his clothing, he cannot find something else to wear or water to wash it, and does not have another garment to wear, or he washes it, he can pray with the impurity. That's on the minimum. That's on what's considered the minimum. It is not permissible to delay the prayer because lack of purity. Whoever does that is disobeyed his Lord. And so that's like, one of the answers I told you about a little while before, where, the Maliki school is going to take the prayer time, and praying in this time takes precedence over everything. So, obviously, these are situations where people don't have, the required amount of clothing or anything. No, he said the one who does not find any clothing to cover his nakedness prays naked. Whoever makes a mistake in regards to the Qibla should repeat it if there is still time. Every repetition of the prayer is a virtuous act, a fadila. For everything that will cause one to repeat the prayer does not apply to missed prayers. So what's meant here is that if a person makes a mistake in regards to the Qibla, he should repeat it. This is like within its time. I said, but the Maliki school, you have a 150-degree leeway, like window. So as long as you're in the basic direction of prayer, then you're good as far as facing the direction of prayer. You would have to be totally off in order to miss that 150-degree mark. Basically, you would have to have your back to the Qibla. Now, so then he says, now I'm go up a little bit. Okay, so you know what? So I think here I'm gonna stop, and I'm gonna ask for questions. And I know I'd also put some things in the group in regards to certain attributes of Allah. If anyone has any questions regarding those, now is the time. And if anyone has any questions regarding the material which we covered today, now is the time. And we'll stop there for this week and continue next week. But now I want to answer any questions.
Is the group on WhatsApp?
Yes.
Uh,
Are you in the group?
I don't use WhatsApp, but I use Telegram and Signal, but I guess I should maybe try to re-download it because I was hoping to go over Al-Qaeda stuff also at some point.
Yeah. You might want to get in there. So I basically started just going over the Sifat al-Salbiya and Thubutiya, the
Okay.
13 attributes everyone must know.
Okay. Okay, and I have a few questions. Okay. So when it comes to checking when someone is done menstruating, they check before the Daruri time and then again before the time is missed altogether?
So that's a good question. Well, let me say that so she should check at the Daruri time. Right. So and that's she doesn't check at the beginning of the ikhtiyari time because she still has a window period, so to speak, and blood could flow or whatever. So it's usually at the dururi time.
Okay.
Wow.
And then if they see the discharge, but then when they insert the cotton and there's blood, which do they go with? Like it appears to be the clear discharge or milky white discharge, what have you. And then when they insert to make sure that there's a small bit of blood in there, do they assume that they're still menstruating?
In that case, yes. Usually the discharge is, I got to go back to my notes, but usually the discharge is after the blood. So if she sees the discharge, but there's still blood, then that's still considered high.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we have a thing that happens at our masjid here, and I've read about it somewhere, but I'm not sure if there's actually ikhtilaf about it. If the imam, if there's a different person, one person delivers the khutbah, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his Arabic is very poor and his recitation is very poor. So they have someone else come and actually lead the prayer. He's the person who is delivering the khutbah gets off of the minbar, someone else comes and leads the prayer for Juma. I've heard that this is not valid in the Maliki school.
Yeah, and in the Maliki school, this wouldn't be valid.
Are you aware of anyone that says that that's valid, or?
I believe the Shafi school is valid in the Shafi school.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay.
So one in that case, one could take this.
Yeah.
The Shafi dispensation, but no, in our school, no, that's not valid.
Okay, jazakallah khair. And then, I'm sorry, I have many questions.
Go ahead. Now's the time.
Yeah, that's. I'm trying to take advantage of it. Inshallah. So you mentioned that the khutbah is part of the prayer.
Right.
What is the minimum amount that has to be done for one's Juma to be valid? Like, for instance, if I'm running late and I miss the khutbah, but I run in and catch the prayer, is my Juma deficient to where I need to pray Dhuhr?
No. As long as you catch one rakat, you're still, because you've caught the prayer, and that's based on the hadith of the Prophet. So I mean, adraka salat kullu. Whoever has caught one rakat, then they have caught the prayer.
Okay, alhamdulillah. And then you mentioned, so the next prayer that happens after sunrise, is there a differentiation in the Maliki school between Doha and Ishraq? Like the actual 2 rakats to be prayed right at sunrise?
Yeah, no.
Okay. And okay, if one overslept for sub, does one pray? And it's
then they pray it as soon as they wake up.
Right. But did they pray Fajr first, or did they pray the obligatory prayer first?
They pray subh. They play the obligatory.
Okay, and then would make up the sunnah.
Yeah, but not if it was, during the Ishraq, like time when the sun was rising. No. So in that case, what one wouldn't pray you talking about the Raga'ib, right? The Raga'ib, which is before the subh. In that case, no, one would just pray the subh and that's it.
So you wouldn't make up. You don't make up.
Not the Raga'ib, no. Okay. Not in that case.
Now, what about? Oh, also, what about witr? Would you ever make up witr? Because I know it has kind of a higher standing than.
Yeah, so you don't have to make up witr. Witr and the Raga'ib are 2 prayers which That's a good question, because so for like in the Maliki school, if you have makeup prayers, you're not supposed to pray any nafila,
Mm,
with the exception of witr and with the exception of the ragai.
yeah.
That being the case, you still do not have to make up witr.
But you can if you want to and have time to.
Yeah, but you don't have to though.
Okay.
There's no wujud.
Okay. What about like the time to pray with her is, from what I understand, up until one prays sub,
Correct.
where that, and it's not just like if one
Right.
is running, what if you're running close to the you're in the dorori time for sub, can you pray with her without shaf before it? Since
If you're in the doruri time for subh, can you pray the but you haven't prayed the subh yet, right?
no.
Then yeah, then you could. Then it would just be. I mean, actually, that would probably take the place of the doruri. But no, once you pray the subh, halas, there's no there's no more salat until. Yeah.
Right. So I was just saying, like, if it's your habit normally that you always pray with her and you always pray the raghaib, and then you're running out of, it's getting close to where you need to pray sub, is it fine to not pray shaf and just pray the witr? Or is that disliked to do that? To only pray
No,
one?
no, it's fine. It's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. I just have a couple more.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Bismillah.
Okay. What about the bottom of the woman's feet? Is that also considered aura? Like,
In
let's
our
say,
in our school, yes.
okay. Okay. And there's no difference of opinion, like the Hanafis say that the feet are not
That
part of
that
the aura. None at all.
yeah, not in the Maliki school. I was about to say, the Hanafis, they say that the feet is the woman's feet is, but no, not in our school. No.
Okay. Okay. Because I didn't know, because I've read some books and it seems like the Maliki school will have a lot of different opinions about things, and then they'll have one like dominant opinion. And so I
Yeah,
just didn't know
yeah.
if that was one of them.
You'll usually have like the mashhur, then you have the mu'tamid, which is because sometimes mashhur or the relied upon opinion is not the textual evidence is not what a lot of other fuqaha would say meet their standards. And so this is why you'll have a number of opinions on things outside the mashhur. But to my knowledge, in that particular mas'ala, no, there's no ikhtilaf.
Okay.
Their law knows best.
Yeah. Okay. And then the last one I have here, is there a difference between, like, in other madahib, they make a difference between minor and major movements in the prayer, like such and such, like 1, 2, or 3 major movements in the prayer, such as taking a step or like moving a whole limb would invalidate the prayer, and minor movements like fidgeting, it's just disliked, or you would have to have a great number of them to invalidate the prayer. Is there a distinction like that in the Maliki school, or?
So in the Maliki school, usually they say like 3 consecutive movements.
Okay. It's
like, and that's not like counting, and they specifically mentioned that's not like counting steps backward and forward, because sometimes you may have to step backward or forward, like if you're praying in Jama'at, based on the Jama'at or something like that. So not counting that, but like I'll not connect it with those, like connected with the salat, like 3 consecutive. The ulama would say this is considered kathara af'al, and this would like break the salat. So
and if
one
there's
should go ahead.
And if there's a pause, what if there's a pause between a brief pause between movements?
Yeah, so if there's a brief pause between movements, this isn't considered kasra af'al. Like I said, it's 3 consecutive movements, like 1, 2, 3. Like a person reached for his phone, then he, got to playing with his sleeves on the shirt, and then he pulled his shirt down, below the waist. You know what I mean? Like 1, 2, 3. Yeah. They said this is considered kathra af'al, but not if there was a pause. Because say for example, a person did 1 or 2 movements like in the first rakat, then the second rakat, they did another movement. That's not considered consecutive. So it's not like a habitual act.
I see. And this would include like if someone like is fidgeting their fingers, would that if you do it 3 times, then like even something slight like that, would that still do it without a break?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
No. I just don't know.
Okay. I'll just be careful. Okay, that's everything. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much, Shaykh.
Well, yeah. Any other questions? Well, inshallah. Okay, so inshallah we'll pick up next week with continuing with the salat. And any questions, further, you can email me. I do respond back. It may take a day or 2, but I will respond back though. So inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Alaikum salam.